welcome to the Micah podcast universe. Here we are. We're in the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie, On Stranger Tides. And we got one more Pirates left after today. And later on in the episode, we'll be announcing what our next series is going to be. So I think that's all I have to say up front. Here we are. Welcome. Oh, yes. This is the podcast that exists to prove people wrong.
That's right.
When they say that sequels are never better than the originals. I'm Micah McCaw.
I'm Jordan McCaw.
And we are married. And I think that's a selling point for the podcast.
Yeah.
Gives us a competitive advantage. What other podcasts are there
Fueled by love.
that are fueled by this much love? None. That's right.
Oh, that was a question. Okay.
Yeah. So, what hit me with your experience with this movie?
I'm pretty sure I've seen this movie before, but I definitely blocked out most of it from memory. And so last night was like the first time watching it, really. And that's about it.
Okay.
I think that's all the energy I have
Yeah.
for this movie.
I was totally out by then. If you recall the last episode, which was a drastic change for me, when I first saw At World's End, I absolutely despised it, and I never saw it again until we watched it last week, and I thought, whoa, this is actually really cool.
Really
And
ties up the series in a neat little bow.
It really does. And so then I was like, okay, here we go. There's two more. There's something about how I don't know how you dice it, but these are adventure movies. They're pirate movies. And it feels like you could just make an infinite amount of them. Who cares? But there's something so weird about how, I think there was also a cultural shrug when, even though this movie did really well, box office wise, I think there was like, oh, we're doing another one of those?
I remember being a kid though, and when the third movie ended, and it ended with him with the map, Johnny Depp having the map, and like it turns it to the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah.
So it's a little like, and he goes on.
Yeah.
To have more adventures. I remember as a kid thinking, "Oh, I want to see that movie so bad." And it also reminds me of when National Treasure 2 ends. The president gives him something that's like your next mission, like your next thing that you can go on. And I remember being a kid watching that and being like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to find out what this is. And never got the National Treasure 3, but hopefully someday we will.
Apparently we're supposed to.
Yeah. And then with this franchise, by the time this movie came out, I didn't care even a little bit. So I've definitely changed that.
Yeah.
Part of it where it's like, just because they leave a little like open-ended fun thing, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think I pinpointed, which we'll be getting into later on in the episode, but I think I pinpointed why this movie doesn't work. Which it's kind of hard to pin down because the movie's not really.
It's just so blech.
It's not really a bad movie, but it's not a good movie. But I got some stuff that I think will crack open the chest, the fountain, if you will. Yeah, I never saw the movie until last night, and I did not. I had no interest in participating in Pirates, and I think right around here, we're in 2011. This is when I would say, like, not the general audience, but like film critics and people who are getting into movies and stuff are getting a little tired of Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And then by the time the next movie comes out, everyone's just over Depp.
Yeah.
And then, follows it up with Grindelwald, and now, we see that he's not even in Grindelwald from here on out because they fired him, or they asked him to leave, quote unquote. So I think we're at the very beginning / maybe the beginning of the middle of, okay, we're kind of over Johnny Depp and his whole shtick. Yeah. So should I just dive?
Yep.
Much like the Mermaids do in this film, I should dive. There's a novel by Tim Powers called On Stranger Tides, and it was published in 1987.
Oh.
And the novel
it's about
had
Blackbeard.
A Fountain of Youth and Blackbeard.
Okay.
But most of it is different and it was more of an inspiration than an adaptation.
It was more of a suggestion, as the credits say, suggested by the novel.
Never seen anything
Tim
like
Powers.
that before.
I've never seen that before. What is that? How is that? It's just basically when they say that, it's like, okay, so inspired by.
Yeah.
Why are we saying suggested? It's as if Tim Powers came to the directors or the screenwriters and was like, I suggest you read my book. That's what it felt like. Or that's what it seemed. I don't know. It was weird.
Well, it sounded like, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, who we've talked about the past 3 times, the writers of the screenplay and the story, they wanted to do something with Blackbeard and Fountain of Youth. And they basically said, well, you can't talk about those 2 things without people thinking about On Stranger Tides, written by Tim Powers.
Okay.
And so on the one hand, I kind of give Disney, for as a conglomerate and crazy as the company is, it's kind of nice that they got the rights and then they gave it a credit in the movie for something that, as far as I can tell, doesn't really follow the same story at all.
Just avoiding a lawsuit.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of times they just go, well, we're a big company. We can just throw money at it and we don't really care.
Like the Monsters, Inc. thing.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of cool that they actually did their due diligence here. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like Tim Powers was a pretty good sport about it, kind of going, oh, I wonder what the movie's going to be like. I know it's not really like the book, and that's cool. And
well, it takes pressure off of him.
Yeah.
That maybe authors feel.
Yeah.
I read today an article of Stephen King going through all of the things that have been adapted to TV of his.
Whoa. And it was his opinion?
And what he thought. Yeah.
Oh, whoa. What were some of the...
Very interesting. He thought, so Under the Dome, which was CBS.
The CBS show, yeah.
Came out 2011, I think.
I don't know the years.
He basically it came out strong, but then it quickly felt like the studio just needed to fill up time.
Oh.
That's almost, I feel like, a direct quote of what he said.
Wow.
And then...
Which there's plenty in the book. You could definitely do a series on that.
Yeah.
There's no reason to drag it out more.
Yeah, but the issue was it was on CBS.
Yeah.
Much like The Stand will be on CBS.
Yeah. Does not look good.
Yeah. The kid in Hereditary's in it, I found out.
Oh.
Via the article.
Wolf? Alex Wolf, I think is his name?
I think it's him or it's his brother.
Okay.
They look like twins. They might be twins. Yeah. I don't remember.
Alex is good though, and the other kid, everything I've seen him in.
I think it's Nate, and I actually do think it's him, and that's the guy who's in Death Note movie, the bad brother.
He might be a good actor. Everything I've seen him in though, he's not good.
Oh, totally.
But they're also not good things. So I don't know how much is his acting.
Yeah,
you know. But Alex is like only in good stuff.
Yeah, I know. And then the Storm of the Century, is that what it's called? It was a mini series, and it was written for TV. And that's one of his favorite things.
Huh.
And it's about like a devil-like figure coming into this town, and this blizzard comes, and no one can go anywhere. So it's like cabin fever with the devil.
That's cool.
Which sounds so cool. And then,
how old was that?
Oh, it's like the 80s. I've seen some of it.
Okay.
And I remember my dad being like, this is really good. And then he turns the channel, so I couldn't watch it. And then he did talk about The Shining. He favors the TV show over the movie, but famously he does not like the movie, but he did make it clear in the article that he does not dislike Stanley Kubrick. He respects him as a filmmaker. He did not think that he had the capability to make the movie correctly. Yeah. I don't know, correctly is probably the wrong word, but
faithfully.
The biggest straw, the thing that really broke the camel's back though, is casting Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. And
the way his character was written for the movie, it's like one note to him.
Yeah.
Because he gets on screen and he's already insane.
Well, didn't Stephen King write the script for the TV show? Or direct.
I think he was involved in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep talking though while I bring it up.
And then that's how I found out Castle Rock got canceled, because they talked about Castle Rock. Oh. And how like JJ came to him and was like, "We want to make a show like based on your mythology." Yeah. Which I love that. Like I never even thought of it as mythology.
Yeah, it just says writer Stephen King, so I think he had a little more to play in the Shining.
And he liked the guy who they cast as Jack Torrance. They thought he thought he did a really good job because he starts as a man who's very lovable and loves his family.
Yeah.
Like the book. I will give him that. I mean, you have to. He's the guy who wrote the book. But yeah, the Castle Rock was really interesting. He does really like Castle Rock.
That's cool.
But he said it's a bummer that it got canceled. And I was like, got canceled?
Yeah. Didn't they only do 2 seasons?
Yeah. And he's like, I really thought that, they were picking up a stride, with the second season. And it's like, I think everyone thought that, but I guess not.
That's weird. Yeah. Both seasons are really good. The first one's better.
Yeah.
But that's weird that they canceled that show.
Yeah.
That must be like how Netflix is just canceling shows because they're like, oh, we're not getting new subscribers, even though people are still watching the show. We don't really care.
Yeah.
So it must be that sort of a situation.
I guess. And then there was another one. Oh, Mr. Mercedes, he really likes.
Oh.
But it was made by like AT&T, like through a network that they have, like through something that they have.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, and it was shown on Showtime, I think.
Okay.
I think that or Amazon. Basically, whatever streaming service it was on, no one watched it.
Yeah.
So he says it's always been a big disappointment to him that he thinks that this really great thing came out, but no one saw it. But now it's on NBC. It's on the Peacock service.
Yeah.
So he's happy about that because people are finally watching it. So he really likes that. And then he did say with The Stand, with the new one coming out, that there's a little bit of a different ending that he wrote. Like he said he kind of feels like a one last thing he wanted to say kind of ending.
That's pretty interesting.
So now I'm probably just going to read the premise of the show.
Yeah. I know. I'm still, by the time this episode comes out, we'll know what people think of it. I mean, I don't want to get the CBS app, but I mean, if it was like rave reviews, I would definitely consider getting the app and then binging it over a weekend. Because I read the novel this year.
Yeah.
And it's like an American classic. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's also like I read the novel and it was an American classic and it was amazing. Why would I waste my time with the TV show that will probably be
a CBS TV show? That's the biggest issue.
I know if it was on HBO, I would be handing them that money.
Yeah.
Fun little tangent there.
Yeah.
All that to say, book adaptions.
Yeah.
Right. So So now back to On Stranger Tides. This movie is directed by Rob Marshall, who has directed Memoirs of a Geisha, Chicago. The movie he directs before this is that movie called Nine with Daniel Day-Lewis, where it's like a musical that is famously like
an animated movie called Nine.
There is.
Okay.
Yes, this is different, but it's famously like the rare kind of bad Daniel Day-Lewis performance.
Oh, okay.
The movie apparently
I've never
sucks
even heard of it.
and didn't do well. Nobody saw
I've
it.
actually seen none of those movies.
Okay. I've seen none of the Nines either.
No, okay. I meant I've seen Nine, the animated movie, but I haven't seen Memoirs of a Geisha or Chicago.
Oh, I haven't either. The only other movie of his I've seen is Mary Poppins Returns, which is pretty sweet and delightful. And then he also directed Into the Woods.
You did say that, yeah.
So I get it. I get why they chose him.
Okay.
Big. These are movies with a lot of big set pieces, like musical set pieces and stuff. But it also, the movie has that look of like the live action Disney movies.
Yep.
Which are all pretty ugly.
They all like
they look pretty washed out.
Washed out and incredibly artificially lit.
Yeah, and what's so cool, and we talked about it so much, is that in the Gore Verbinski trilogy, particularly the lighting is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more sets. I didn't feel like this movie had hardly any sets.
Yeah.
I mean, it did, but you could see like when they were at the lighthouse, it's like, oh, that's a fake lighthouse. The water's fake. That's like all of this is fake, and it's not in an artistic way.
Yeah.
I do understand though that Disney's thinking, hey, we made 3 movies with a really strong visual style. We want to start kind of almost a reboot in a way. Let's get a new visual style and not just tie it down to Gore Verbinski. I'd imagine has something to play.
Yeah.
But I don't think it works.
No.
Okay, Hans Zimmer did the music, which, Hans, you phoned this one in for sure.
Wasn't there another one he did that we talked about?
I love Hans. He's like in my top 5 composers. I love him so much, but sometimes he does just a Hans Zimmer score, you know, where it's like, just take those things I already did, add a couple extra drums, and let's call it a night. I want to go back to working on the Interstellar score or something that has a lot of passion in it.
Yeah. Maybe his plate was too full.
It probably was.
I wonder, like, I do feel like we'd said this another time about another score that he did, and I wonder if that movie came out in the same year or like in the same time period. And then there's like another movie he did within the same time period. Yeah.
Well, I love him, and I don't want to throw any shade at Hans, but you know, when you are composing, 7 movies a year or whatever he's doing, 3 even, you're some of them aren't going to be as good as the others. That's just the fact,
only
Jack.
Human.
Yeah. And then again, this was shocking to me. It's the same cinematographer as the last 3 movies, Dariusz Wolski, which is weird.
Yeah, so you said that, and then that makes me think that the relationship between him and the director are just different. Not bad. That's not what I mean, but it's just the combination gave us a different looking movie.
Yeah, because looking back on those first 3 movies, I think one of the strongest things, the thing you could argue if someone was saying, hey, Jordan, you're stupid and you don't have good film taste because you like the first 3 Pirates. I think an easy thing you could argue is how good the movies look. Mm-hmm. And you could go through all of that. And then this movie, it doesn't feel like it really has a strong visual style.
The only thing that was interesting to me was the Fountain of Youth.
Oh, but I thought that was horrible. I hated the design of that.
I thought it was a little interesting, but the environment made no logical sense.
Maybe that's more. Yeah, I didn't understand the rules of that area.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like an Alice in Wonderland type. There are no rules kind of thing. It just felt like they were like, this would be cool if they came up through the ceiling through water, but then they could just leave however they want.
Yeah, this movie, and you're here, but I mean, you compare it to the last 3 and the world building. I'm shocked that this is the same 2 writers.
Oh yeah, me too, man.
And again, it makes you wonder how much of just sharpening the screenplay and stuff like that, how much of that is Gore Verbinski?
Yeah.
Starting to come around to him being like one of the great American auteurs.
Yeah, I take back when I saw the trailer for A Cure for Wellness and it said a Gore Verbinski film, and I said, who cares? Who is that? I take it back.
Yeah, you should. And you know what? There's a lot of people who think that we should reevaluate The Lone Ranger, which came out a couple years after this and is directed by Gore Verbinski.
Oh, I've never seen it. I thought that was a Tim Burton movie.
No.
Wait.
It's a Gore Verbinski movie.
That wouldn't make sense because we went through the blank check thing.
Yeah, and we watched all of his movies.
Didn't he produce it? He was involved. I'm looking it up.
But that was Quentin Tarantino's favorite movie of that year, if you remember. But famously, we all know that Quentin Tarantino has the weirdest taste in movies.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, he has no involvement.
Okay.
Maybe I was just young enough. Armie Hammer's in that movie?
Yeah, he's the main character. He's the Lone Ranger.
Oh, I thought Johnny Depp. This is how little I know about
Johnny Depp is Tonto. He plays a Native American. Whoops.
Yeah, I think I was just young enough that when the movie came out and there were trailers, I was like, Johnny Depp, Tim Burton.
Yeah. Well, but I'm not promising to the audience by any means that it's a good movie. I have heard that at the very least, there is a sequence that's phenomenal.
Cool.
A train sequence that's phenomenal. But other than that, I guess the movies some say it's bad, some say it's kind of actually good. And Gore Verbinski directed Rango. We love Rango. Rango rules.
Yep, we do.
And A Cure for Wellness.
It was good. I liked it.
It's a little long, and it's very weird, but pretty cool for someone to make after making some blockbusters and stuff.
I mean, I know that Dane DeHaan is becoming a little one note to me as an actor, but I'm still in the boat of I will watch anything he's in.
Well, that was will you watch Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets?
Potentially, because of the Patrick Willems video.
Okay, but back to this.
Oh, no, never mind.
What?
I was just going to say, when he was talking about that movie and mentioned how him and the girl look like brother and sister, but they're romantically involved, I was like, ooh, gross, weird.
They do look like brother and sister.
Yeah.
Okay, May 20th, 2011, this movie comes out. Now, Jordan, this movie has a budget of $410.6 million.
That's too much money.
That's huge.
And that's probably, well, the other movies had a ton too. That's a lot of money.
I think the last movie was like 370.
That's still a lot of money. But
that's a lot. Oh, over 400, but they get a report that it's under 400 because they got a $32 million tax credit from where they were filming.
And where was that?
I don't remember.
You said you were going to look it up.
I didn't.
Clearly.
I feel like it was in London. But maybe not. Probably not. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Domestically, the movie makes $241 million. And worldwide, it makes $1 billion.
Okay, so it made its money back.
So they did just fine.
What country really likes that movie?
I mean, a lot of times when there's that big of a difference, it's usually China.
Yeah.
So not that big of a difference, but China makes up for so much of the global box office. Mm-hmm. So, but you can see even with domestically 241, that's a lot of money. That's pretty good. But maybe it's waning a little bit. That people in the U.S. are like, okay.
Totally.
Or maybe they're not watching it a second time.
Yeah.
So Disney approaches Gore Verbinski, and he's working on Rango, so he's not interested in doing it. Mm-hmm. And that movie, a ton of like animation developments that they're working on and stuff like that.
It's such a good movie, and it holds up.
Yeah. And then Johnny Depp in this movie was involved in some of the story ideas. So one of his one of his ideas was that Philip should be a missionary and they should have a Spanish contingent following protagonist.
Oh, so he added the superfluous part of the movie to the movie. Thank you.
I will say I get the impression that maybe they had a Philip character and he was like, he should be a missionary.
I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the Spanish. Yeah.
Yeah. The Spanish thing.
The missionary thing actually makes sense and is interesting.
It's not, but it could have been.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
though? In theory, it's interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to take a stab, just a wild guess, at how much money Johnny Depp was paid for this movie?
Like $20 million?
No.
More?
Way more.
100?
Way less.
70.
Okay, $55.5 million.
That's a lot. Does Iron Man even get paid that much?
I don't think so.
Whoa.
Mackenzie Crook had this to say about the movie. Now he is...
Because he's not in it.
He's Dwight from the British office.
UK office.
He said they haven't...
The guy with the fake eye.
Yes. He said they haven't asked me, but actually I don't mind that at all. I'm a fan of the first one especially, and I think the trilogy we've made is great. I'd almost like them to leave it there.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
Penelope Cruz, discovered she was pregnant while filming the movie.
Wow.
So they had to change her costume and stuff like that halfway through filming, kind of a thing.
Wow, okay.
Never would have guessed.
No.
Especially,
but they're really good at that these days.
But especially because the whole movie, anytime it's not a close-up, it's a stunt actor, which is so obvious and one of my huge complaints with the movie. Now, all but one scene was shot in 3D, so this was a 3D release.
Okay.
We're only 2 years away from past Avatar, so that makes sense.
2 years away past. Which one is it?
Avatar came out in 2009.
Okay.
So then it makes sense that studios are like 3D. Okay, so I thought this was funny, audience. And I actually don't understand the purpose of even ever talking about this as a producer of a movie. It makes no sense to me. Casting for Mermaids required the actresses to have natural breasts, no implants. As Bruckheimer explained to Entertainment Weekly, I don't think they had breast augmentation in the 1700s, so it's natural for casting people to say, we want real people.
Oh. What a weird thing to say.
I don't even understand how that would have come up.
All?
Yeah. And it's also weird because you
don't see boobs in this movie.
Exactly. When I saw that quote, and then we're watching the movie, and I hadn't seen the movie, but I'd read that quote, I thought, okay, so they must really push the boundaries on breast showing in a PG-13 movie. And there was one shot that I would consider like maybe a little risque.
Sure. Which one?
When she's like pinned up against the post.
Oh yeah, okay.
But she's in such distress and stuff, and it's so quick. But it's just like,
I'm pretty sure she has like a suit over her anyway.
Yeah. So why? I don't know why anyone would ever say that. That's so weird. Don't say that.
No, that's odd.
Very weird. But I knew to drop that bomb on you.
Thank you.
And I wanted it to be on Mike. I kept teasing it throughout the movie and making jokes about the potential of what I might be dropping in the episode. So let's hear about those actors.
Okay, so we do have Penelope Cruz, as you said earlier. She plays Angelica. She is in Vanilla Sky. Vicky Cristina Barcelona. Her and Javier Bardem. She's also in Volver. Let's see. She was in the American Crime Story Versace. She played Versace's sister.
Right.
She was incredible.
Good.
Incredible in that show. She's in another movie. She's in Loving Pablo, which is another movie with Javier Bardem where they are together.
Oh, that's interesting.
Are they married?
They're married.
They are?
Yeah.
That's a good couple. That's a good couple.
Yeah.
I am a big Javier Bardem fan.
And who's in the next movie?
I'm not excited that he's in this series, but but I mean, Javier
one
Bardem.
has Penelope, one has Javier Bardem.
So she's with his child during the filming of this movie. She's also in Zoolander #2, The Counselor, Twiceborn. I mean, she isn't so much. She's been in film as long as film's been around, is how it feels.
You're calling her an old person?
Which she's not. And then Ian McShane, an old person, plays Blackbeard. He is in the John Wick series. He's in Deadwood. That's right, he is in Deadwood.
Yeah.
He's in Kung Fu Panda.
One of these days, I feel like I need to just go, okay, I'm watching Deadwood. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's got
I've heard
Timothy Olyphant.
Nothing but good things about it.
My dad, who is listening to this, I'm sure, he was watching it, and he said something about how they cuss too much. Like
my dad really liked it, and he never said that.
Wow. Well, I think he was, in his defense, saying that he felt like it didn't make sense for the time period.
I understand. That makes sense.
But
that's interesting.
Come on.
But aren't they a bunch of outlaw cowboys?
Actually, that might be mean to talk like that. I don't know.
He's also in Hellboy, Bolden, Age of Sail, Pottersville. He's also as old as film itself. He's in Game of Thrones.
Can I
didn't know that.
hit you with his best role of all time, though?
Okay.
He is Hot Rod's dad in Hot Rod,
that's right.
the greatest comedy.
He's really good in that. We have covered Sam Claflin because he's in Hunger Games.
Yes, he's the missionary in this movie.
Yes. But then Astrid Burgess Frisbee.
What?
She is the mermaid. She's in King Arthur.
Well, first of all, you said Astrid, which just makes me think of The Office and them thinking that she named her Astrid. And then Frisbee?
Frisbey.
Okay.
Frisbee. She's Spanish.
Cool.
She's in King Arthur, the Charlie Hunnam that looks like the other Charlie Hunnam one.
That's a Guy Ritchie movie.
That's right. She's also in The Vault, The Beginners, The Driver. A lot of looks like independent stuff.
Good for her.
And Spanish stuff. Great. And then Stephen Graham plays Scrum. He's in Snatch. He's also in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Ugh,
Greyhound.
Put yourself to sleep, a spy.
Yeah. The Irishman. Oh, he is in The Irishman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that movie's so
also in
freaking
Hellboy.
Good.
He's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that just about does it for main people. Judi Dench makes a cameo appearance.
Very weird.
Very, very weird.
Now, I will say...
Judi Dench, society lady.
In her defense, she does say, "Is that it?" And then we don't see her again, which is kind of a fun commentary.
Is she like a fan, though, of pirates? Like, why put her in this movie?
She must have just been like on set or something. I don't know. Why else? But she's in all that costume. I don't know.
It takes time. Anyway.
I mean, we love Dame Judi Dench. Dame Judi Dench. Isn't she?
Judi Dench.
Okay. So before we even start on the plot, what do we think about the additional characters in this film? Like the acting. What do we? Because I feel like you can't even begin to start this movie.
Yeah, I think it's a
talking about
huge
it.
bummer how they wrote Penelope Cruz's character, because
Horrible.
it's just the woman. She's the one. Like, we need a female person in it. Let's stick her in it.
Talk about not passing the Bechdel test.
But yeah, with Keira Knightley being in the first three and being such a strong character, like such an important and strong character, and then we have this person in a franchise that's already has so few women.
It's actually jarring.
It really is, and she does a really bad job. But I think she's written. It's just abysmal how she's written.
Yeah.
And then
the guy from Snatch.
I think he's whatever. He's fine. He's not as funny as Mackenzie Cook and the other guy, which he's like he's like replacing.
Why doesn't it work though? Because those guys work so well, but
that's what we want is Mackenzie Cook and the other guy.
Yeah.
And this character was not even funny.
Yeah.
Therefore, I never forgot about how much I missed the other guys.
Yeah. And then
Ian McShane. We
got to talk about the Blackbeard of it all, but we can wait till we're at that. But I should say, so my dad, he has, I don't think he's done it the past couple of years, but at his work, American Family Insurance, he likes to play an April Fool's joke every year on them. You know, the classic dad stuff. And so, like, the first year he was working there, he said, "Hey, I have Blazers tickets. Anyone want one?" And then people would respond, and he'd go, "April Fools, I don't." But one thing he did, which I did think was very funny, so he won a trip to the Bahamas through work, and we went there. And so we were in the Caribbean. And he took a picture of my sister, and he like photoshopped, but on like Microsoft Word or Paint or something. This is like pre access to Photoshop for most people. I'm sure if we looked at it now, we'd be like, how did anyone fall for this?
Yeah.
But he made a fake article that said, like, Oregon girl finds Blackbeard's lost medallion. And he wrote this whole article about how this girl who was in the Bahamas, my sister, found this medallion that historians have been searching for years and years.
And he like wrote the article.
Yeah. And then he sent it out on April Fool's, and all these people are responding, and they're going, "That is the most incredible story. I've never heard anything like this."
That's funny.
So I had to mention that on the episode about Blackbeard.
Yeah.
So this movie begins, and there are these Spanish people, and they catch a man in a net. Do we ever find out who that man was at the beginning?
It doesn't matter who he is. He's just carrying a message.
What is he carrying? What's the message?
I don't know. He's carrying a book, and I think it's Ponce de Leon's book, which I'm assuming proves that you can get there.
That's right.
So it proves to the Spanish king. I don't know like what government they had during this time, but like, the Fountain of Youth is real.
Okay.
But we're going to get it.
And already right away. And I wasn't trying to carry this into the movie, but it really felt like a jarring experience of looking and going, oh, this just looks and feels way different. We're 5 minutes into the movie, and I'm going, this is weird.
Yeah.
And I was struggling to grasp on it once we got to the court scene.
I think a big issue with it, and I don't know if this is what you're going to say, too much Jack Sparrow.
I wasn't going to say that.
I don't know if he can carry a whole movie.
That is interesting and definitely correct. It's
if you really think about the other movies, yeah, he's in them most of the time, of course. But he's not actually like doing much to move the story forward. I mean, if he is, it's for selfish reasons, and that's what's interesting. But it's like your straight mans, your Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann, like, we need to do this thing.
Well, it's actually the classic like Han Solo thing. He's the Han Solo character in a way, a version of it where a movie that centers around Han Solo, you realize, oh, he's a really fun character, but this isn't as fun when it's just about him.
Yes.
Like, he needs to be the guy that's in the distance like, Will Turner's kind of weird, huh? That he's like joking with the audience, and when it is just about Jack Sparrow, it's a little lacking. Now, the other big problem, this is I think the biggest problem of the movie, is we saw an entire character arc with Jack Sparrow where he learned how to be selfless, at least for an action or two, and was able to kind of claim his own destiny, but also, be a scummy pirate at the end of the day. But, when he dies, he chooses to attack that Kraken in the second movie.
Yeah. That's what you're talking about.
Yes,
yeah.
And he does an act of selflessness, and then he comes back, and he's able to help people. And there's still some selfishness, but he learned.
Yeah.
And so he has a nice, complete character arc.
Yeah.
There's nothing more for him to learn. So when we come into this movie, it's just like, ooh, I'm interested in finding a puff pastry. Or I'm like, I know they try to make a character arc with him and Penelope Cruz, but I don't know what it is. It's just this random girl that he was with.
Yeah.
That I guess he was in love with. But at the end of the movie, you find out he wasn't really, but he is kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's so the main character doesn't really have a character arc.
No.
So that's not very interesting to me. And then
I don't even know, like hardly anyone does in this movie.
Yeah. And then the other big problem, and I hate to say this because I have to include Barbossa in this comment. We love Barbossa, we love Jeffrey Rush, but in this movie, it feels like those two characters, Jack Sparrow and Barbossa, are no longer actors inhabiting a role and exploring the role.
Yeah.
They're caricatures of what they were doing in the other three movies.
Yeah. No, that's so true.
And so it's not it doesn't feel very genuine. It doesn't feel
also,
like...
I didn't buy anything that Captain Barbossa did. Like why he would...
Oh, his storyline was
It made
all
no
over
sense.
the place.
Yeah.
It made sense in a very basic way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I can say what happened, and you go, yeah, that makes sense, but there's no emotion to it.
I don't believe that would happen too.
Right. So we're still... So let's get to the court scene. This is where the movie kind of jumps the shark almost. So we see Gibbs comes into this court, and Jack Sparrow is running the court.
And Gibbs is being prosecuted as Sparrow.
Yeah. And then...
Jack, under the guise of a judge, sentenced him to life in prison.
Yeah.
And then... So they're taking Gibbs away to be put in prison, and then Jack takes off the robe and the wig and all that stuff and gets into the back of the thing with Gibbs, and he's like, we're getting out of here. You're free. And it's like, oh, an elaborate ruse from Jack. This was funny.
It's just weird, though, because we do have weird, goofy, stupid stuff in the other three movies, but it really just doesn't land in this.
What I didn't really like, too, and I mean, maybe this happened back in history, but like it was leading up to that scene and people were like, hanging, where there's a hanging today. This is so exciting. And the little girl's like, Dad, there's a hanging today. And he's like, no, it's just trials today. Yeah. Just so get into the courthouse quickly so we see who dies. Just kind of weird.
Yeah. So they make an escape, and there's this carriage chase. Judi Dench is in it.
That's not... Well, right before that, though, is when he's talking to the king.
Oh, I was thinking that was after. Yes.
So Jack was duped, and he's now in front of the king, and the king is Uncle Vernon Dursley from Harry Potter. He understands that Jack knows where the Fountain of Youth is and wants him to find it for his own reasons. And then that's when Barbossa comes in, and he's now like working for the Royal Navy or whatever. And then Jack escapes, and it's just so boring. Like you mentioned, the choreographed stuff is just not that interesting.
They don't really use their environments, which is a fun thing that in a sword fight to do.
Well, I think that they do. I really think that they do, because in that scene, he swings on the chandelier. He goes to the window, and then later on with Penelope, when they introduce her character, they're like all over the room. But the choreographed stuff is just so boring that like what's actually happening, if you really think about it, is both of the actors are just standing there.
Yeah, and it's really clear, especially in that scene. So, there's all this business. It's bad. We don't like it. But you're still kind of tracking. On a basic level, it's okay, and it's kind of working. Like, really good fan film is how I feel about this movie. It's like, as far as fan film go, great. But he goes to meet someone who's been going around town calling themselves Jack Sparrow. and he has this fight. It turns out it's Penelope Cruz, and she's
Impersonating him.
dressed like him. And the fight, you're looking, and it's just like, that's clearly not Johnny Depp or Penelope Cruz. Like, almost the entire fight, unless it's close-ups. And there's just this disconnect I felt in all of the action sequences. I understand not everyone is Tom Cruise, and not everyone's going to do their own stunts. I understand that one of the actors was pregnant.
Yeah.
But there's just this, it feels like a lack of care for the art of martial arts and stuff.
For the bar that they set in the last 3 movies with action.
Yeah, so it's just kind of boring.
Yeah. And also, when you have a woman who is dressed as a man and then it's revealed that she's a woman and she's taking off the wig, taking off the facial hair, I guess they also rip open their shirt.
Well, I think the implication is her breasts were like taped to herself very tightly, and then when she ripped off that clothing, and her bosoms were allowed to breathe. You know,
I don't care what the implication is. She rips her shirt open.
Yeah, it's filmed from a male's perspective for certain.
So you really immediately learn, okay, this is the kind of female character we're gonna get. Her, and then the mermaid who's gonna be in captivity the whole time.
Yeah. Oh man, we're not even to the mermaids yet. Also, in all these action sequences, the geography is really unclear. I don't know where the people are at or what they're doing exactly, and then it'll just cut to like a random person showing up. It just doesn't. I want a nice wheel with people fighting inside of a wheel, and you just watch and you go, "That's so cool." We don't get that.
So, the British armies broke into the pub, the bar, whatever this is.
Yeah.
So they need to escape. There is a little bit of a fight sequence with them, with Penelope and Jack, and then they escape. And he does learn throughout all of this that Penelope's trying to get to the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah.
And she alludes to that she is a captain of a ship. And like, come with me. And then you also learn like they do have a history, a romantic history.
Yeah, which is really intriguing.
It always feels so forced and contrived when like characters meet after a really long time and it ended badly, and it's like they're picking up right where their last fight ended, and it just always feels so unnatural and forced to me. But it's only to try to tell me information. I don't like it. People need to stop doing it.
And I'm not a big fan of the trope. I'm sure there are examples of it being fun and great, but I'm not a big fan of like Jack Sparrow's fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and then they're shooting it like, and look at this, it's a girl that's fighting him. That's right, a girl. Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah. It's so annoying.
Yeah. So they escape, and then one of her crewmen shoots him with a dart, and he passes out.
Yeah. Now, then we
have to talk about, I think it's right before this.
Oh, okay.
Gibbs is now in custody again.
He's the best actor and the best performance in the movie by far.
He really is. He is, but he
still
barely
brings it.
He does. So he is he's in custody, and Barbosa is gonna hang him because he's a pirate, and basically telling Gibbs you're of no worth to me, and you're a criminal, so you're gonna die. And Gibbs is trying to figure out ways to show his worth so they don't kill him. And he pulls out the map that he stole from Jack. And do you remember how awkward that scene was? He unspools it, and Barrows is like, "Give it here." And Gibbs this is not a joke what I'm about to mime, but he's like, I know this is not great podcast stuff, but he's like, just he goes like he's gonna hand it to him, and then just drops it on the ground, slowly turns to the lantern, grabs it, and there's ample time to get the map back.
Yeah, it very much feels like, okay, 1, 2, 3, drop, and then 1, 2, grab lantern. Okay, 1, and okay,
he was
I hit all my cues.
Having a bad day and couldn't remember his beats. But then basically he's like, I know the map in my mind. Now I'm of worth, and they couldn't kill him.
Yeah.
Now we're back to Jack.
So now Jack is on Blackbeard's ship. Now, I'm at some point I want you to jump into your research today that you made about Blackbeard, but one thing that is insane to me. So we have obviously the perfect analogy to compare to is Davy Jones. And he has this crazy crew, and we learn that the crew are other lost souls, and they slowly become part of the ship. That explains their design. It explains what's going on. So Blackbeard, and correct me if I'm wrong, Blackbeard's thing is he has people, and he turns them into zombies.
Mm-hmm.
For what purpose?
I think to make them like those are his first mates. I mean, Penelope's his first mate, but to to keep everyone in line.
Well, and it's they don't look cool. They don't look cool at all. And there's no they don't have any like special power that makes them unique to any of the other crews we've seen.
Other than being big
movies.
And cranky.
Yeah, and one gets stabbed and he doesn't die, but we've seen skeletons.
We saw that in the last 3 movies because we had skeletons, and then the ship people, it was really hard to kill them. Or the crustacean people. But I know that was such a bummer because it's like, yeah, he zombified them. And it's like, cool, more please? And they just don't say anything else.
Yeah. And I'm also confused. And I could definitely be wrong about this, but it feels like, isn't zombie like kind of a newer word in the history of the world? Like, are they really saying like, that's a zombie?
I don't know if that like word zombie is used back then, but I'm sure that there's stuff about the dead coming back to life in some way.
But wouldn't it just be cooler to be like, he resurrects the dead and they're the undead crew of Captain Blackbeard, instead of Captain Blackbeard's zombies.
Yeah. I mean, it's lame because the last 3 movies are so exposition heavy, almost to a fault. And there's not that much exposition in this movie. Yeah. Which is really my favorite part, I think, which is weird to say because it's usually not.
Yeah.
But
well, the lore is cool and they expand upon it in cool ways. And this one, they just go, oh, here's some lore. We're not going to explain it, but we do have to explain this one thing for the next scene so that you are set up for it.
Yeah.
And you go, well, you didn't really earn it. You just told me in a sentence that needed to happen, and then now 2 minutes later, you're doing it. Yeah. Are you going to give me credit for that cool pirate impersonation I just did?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Okay.
So Jack's on the ship for a while before he meets up with Blackbeard, or before he's revealed to us. But we learn, obviously, Penelope is not the captain. She's the first mate. She's his daughter, Blackbeard's daughter. And then he meets some of the other crew, Scrum being one of them. And he's talking to them around a candlelight and is basically encouraging all of the crew to rise up against Blackbeard because he realizes no one's seen him. Yeah. Therefore, maybe he's not even on the ship. Yeah. Which I thought that was pretty funny and fun. Because the thing about Jack is he has all those fun, confusing wordplay, like word kind of puzzles.
And these are his best type of scenes where he's like bouncing off of an audience like a comic at an open mic set.
Totally. So he gets all the other guys riled up and they start taking over the ship. Yeah. And then old Blackbeard comes out and has superpowers.
Yeah. So I just want to... Blackbeard can control... So this is Blackbeard. He can control his ship through the power of his sword, like a superhero commanding a symbiote.
Like Doctor Strange and his magical cape.
Okay, he can do that. Apparently he sleeps a lot and hides from his crew. Yeah. We get no explanation for either one of these things. I think he's just making voodoo dolls of all of them. Yeah, he has voodoo dolls, which have no payoff in the movie whatsoever.
No. Nope.
They just literally throw it off a cliff and don't bring it up again.
I thought that part was kind of funny.
Kind of funny.
But, you're absolutely right.
But what purpose did it serve to have a voodoo doll?
I mean, the only purpose it served in the scene where it was revealed was to get Jack to comply. Yeah. But it's like, okay, you felt the need to make a voodoo doll, but there's no payoff to it. Why not get rid of the voodoo doll and just hurt Jack until he complies?
Okay, so Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. There's a guy who makes voodoo dolls in it. Jack.
Is that the one where the heart gets pulled out of the chest?
Yes.
Oh, it's scary.
So throughout the movie, Harrison Ford and other characters, I can't remember how many voodoo dolls there are, but at least Harrison Ford, he gets like injured or get like can't think of the word, but he gets
paralyzed,
stopped from doing what he's doing, or temporarily disabled. You know, and then there's a scene toward the end where he's about to get smashed by rocks, or by this boulder, this thing that smashes rocks. Excuse me. And so there's a guy watching, and he's using the voodoo doll to to prevent him from getting away. So it actually serves a purpose. This movie, they're just like, look at this voodoo doll. Do you feel hot when I hold it over a candle, Jack? Okay, that's it for the voodoo doll. We're going to throw it off a cliff later for no purpose at all. So Blackbeard's got all those things. He makes voodoo dolls for some reason. We don't know, and it doesn't make sense. He puts ships in bottles. That's another thing he does.
Again, really cool idea. Expound upon it, please. Because we do find out when Barbossa is introduced that the Black Pearl has been sunk. That's what Jack concludes.
Yeah.
Is that it's sunk. So he lost it. Although Barbossa just said he lost it. And then you see when that is revealed that that Blackbeard took the ship and he put it in a bottle. And it's like, how the F does that work? How the F does that work? Tell me. And why is he doing it? Because you there's so little explained about him, and I'm not interested in him. Yeah. I'm more just annoyed because he's just like a pretentious old man who can make ropes do things he wants them to do by touching his sword.
Yeah, and then finally he does. So he makes people zombies. So he has like 5 things.
He is quite the talented person, and
none of them are explained with any motivation.
5 things, and none of them make him immortal, which is really what he's trying to be by going to the Fountain of Youth. Pretty surprising.
Yeah. So I don't get it. And then is there any credence to expounding upon the folklore of Blackbeard?
Yeah. So I looked up Blackbeard, and because like growing up as a kid, I knew who he was. Blackbeard's a pirate.
Blackbeard.
I know. And so I look him up, and he is a real person that lived. He's is it Edward Teach? Is that what they said in the movie? Because that's his real name.
Oh, I did not catch that. I had a hard time paying attention on this movie, and I'm usually pretty devoted when we're doing a podcast movie. But
Edward Teach is his name, and they do say that in the movie. Barbossa's calling him Edward Teach, and he earns the name Blackbeard because of his black beard. It was reported to be very long and luscious. Or oftentimes braided, which in this movie his beard is braided. Because I was reading, I was like, yeah, his beard's black, but it's not that interesting. But it is braided, so it's like, okay. And he's also known to intimidate enemies by putting slow burning matches in his hat. So like it looked like he was on fire. Okay. And like I'm assuming his countenance was also very scary. His
boat shoots fire too. For some reason.
In the movie. Yeah. Not in real life. But he I'm assuming it was a very scary looking person.
Yeah.
No matter if there were matches or whatever, because that's how people reported him to be like the devil himself, like looked like it. And it's like, that's pretty interesting. And then I go on to read, there is no indication or proof that he has ever killed or harmed anyone. He was definitely a pirate, 100%. There's also evidence that he might have been born into like a noble family. And later on in his life became a pirate. Being active as a pirate, that's only a couple years of his life. And he does die a pirate. Like he gets
yo ho.
Yeah. But he hooks up with another pirate and they start taking over boats. He even takes over a boat containing slaves.
Wow. And
I was like, that's interesting. Does he make them his crew or whatever? He just makes everyone get off the boat. I mean, he has his own crew. Yeah. But so he makes everyone get off the boat. Slaves, crew people included, and him and his crew sail away on the boat. And I think that might be the boat that becomes Queen Anne's Revenge.
Okay.
Potentially. I can't really remember. And then he put a ton of 40 guns on it, like cannons and guns and stuff on this boat. And then I think at one point he was in command of 3 ships. So he was a very formidable pirate that did terrorize people and stole a lot of stuff, especially wine.
Well, and he lost a medallion in the Bahamas.
No. I mean, not that I could see. Funny enough, his story is a little not as sensational as I thought it was, and I didn't finish it. I was like, I think I got what I need to paint a picture of who this person is. So that is Blackbeard. He does sound like an interesting character for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's killed anybody.
Yeah.
And he was pardoned later in his life. So.
Well, and a listener...
And this is fictional. We know it's fictional.
Right, I was going to say, you might be thinking, what are you guys talking about? I thought you guys liked gonzo crazy stuff. But I've it just feels like it breaks what previous movies have established as their view on folklore.
And I think because being a kid and knowing who Blackbeard was and just knowing that he was a bad pirate, like that's really where the folklore begins and ends on him.
Yeah.
With Davy Jones, he is folklore. There is no Davy Jones. It's Davy Jones' locker. And they personified him. That's cool.
Oh, so that's all there is?
I've looked it up before, and that's what it's like. Like the depths of the ocean when you die at sea.
So it's not based on a real person, or
I haven't looked it up in a long time. Maybe someone who's listening knows, but he is like the keeper of the souls who died at sea.
Yeah.
The folklore is enough to paint an interesting character, and then they added a little bit more to him and made him cooler.
Yeah.
But like Blackbeard is someone who actually lived.
Yeah.
And they did try to add things to him and make him cooler. But wouldn't it be almost a little bit cooler if he wasn't magical?
Yeah.
And like, okay, sure, maybe he can still somehow through physics and science shoot fire. Like, because that's still pretty crazy.
What if though he just was this crazy pirate, and there was a scene where, Jack Sparrow says, "Hey, just kill this guy." And he's like, "I've never killed anybody before." And you find out he's a big fraud.
Yeah.
And then you'd look it up and you'd go, "That's too sensational." And you'd go, "Oh, I guess he was like that. That's interesting."
Yeah.
But instead, I just don't get the purpose of choosing Blackbeard, except for in the novel, I guess Blackbeard is in it.
Yeah.
And I don't understand his powers. I don't understand his powers.
Yeah.
That's the big problem. So they need to catch a mermaid now. And in a scene
to get her tear
before where they're like, "Hey, we need to get a mermaid's tear for this fountain of youth." And you go, "Okay, I guess."
Not only that, they have to take her with them because her tears don't stay good that long.
Yeah. And again, they're doling this information out like either as it's happening or just before. So your brain doesn't have time to go, "Oh, they set that up." You go, "Oh, they're not setting anything up. They're just telling us right before it happens." So there is what I put in my notes, the boat foreplay scene, the foreplay boat scene, where
I was looking at Davy Jones.
Yeah, when they use a lighthouse to try and attract mermaids
and singing
onto a boat to get these sailors.
And it was a certain I would think it was like a summer night. All of the signs were pointing to mermaids that evening.
Yeah, and I just feel like the edge is so gone from the series. Because remember how in all the other movies, there was stuff that you and I commented where we're like, "That's kind of intense that they put this in this movie." Like the raven poking out the guy.
Uh-huh.
And I am not asking for movies to be edgier and darker. I promise you.
Really? Because I got one for you.
But it's like, okay, you have these mermaids. We know about the siren mythology. Mm-hmm. This could be pretty interesting and pretty weird. And then it's like they just go to a very well-lit area. The mermaids come out and attack them. It's all not awesome-looking CG.
The effects are just so bad. And you have, the other movies look so good. They look so good in 2020. You could release those movies in 2020 and they would look.
Yeah.
I would be commenting on how good they look.
I know.
And then this movie comes out after all of those movies and they look so bad. The Mermaids.
And I mean, I feel like they say, okay, the mermaids will trick you, so take heed, be careful. And then there's really just the one guy is kind of like, "Oh yeah, I want to be with this mermaid and die. It's worth it for me." And everyone else is unaffected and they're fine. And there's no tension in the scene. And I'm just thinking, okay, you had all these weird dream sequences in the previous movie. Why not do something weird? Go weird. Don't do something we've seen before. Make it where they go through a weird cave and they're singing and all these sailors have like these weird visions of grandeur or something.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory weird.
Yes. Actually, yeah. That would be so cool. They go through, they're seeing their weird visions, and then all of a sudden
Gene Wilder shows up.
It changes to darkness and craziness, and the mermaids are attacking them, and you can't see them.
The Chocolate Factory. Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Such a bummer. So
such a missed opportunity.
There's a Christian missionary that is already on Blackbeard's ship when Jack gets there.
Yeah.
So when did they get him? We don't know. Why is he keeping him like up on the stern, like basically starving and dehydrated?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting to me. That's like in medias res of his story. Very interesting. And then that's about it. You know, because we don't like spend enough time with him to really get a sense of who he is. But he becomes the person who, like you said, saves the mermaid. He's like thinking of her to the point of like she's suffocating in her tank, so he helps her breathe. And then he forms feelings for her and he saves her, and he's willing to die for her. And this all happens in less than 24 hours. And
it's so weird because there's no conflict beyond just the obvious, like he wants to save her. But you have a missionary, and of course, like Christians can get married and stuff like that. That's fine. But it's like maybe you could come up with a religious conflict between him falling in love with this mermaid that would make this more intriguing.
Well, it's pretty interesting that the Christian missionary is the most like open-minded and like his heart is the most open to like willing to understand someone. Usually Christians are not painted in that way in movies. Yeah. Especially like they're just usually not painted that way where they're like the altruistic person. There's usually a motive to it.
I guess we won one on this one.
So I found that really interesting that he's like, she has a name, she's a person, she has an identity, and I love her and I want to save her. And I just wish that they had maybe spent more time on that part of it.
Yeah. But also I don't care.
But you don't care because they didn't spend enough time on it. Also, I think that the actor's pretty good.
Yeah, I want to see him in something that's not a movie I dislike.
Yeah.
Well, he is good in Catching Fire.
Yeah,
but
I think that him and Nicholas Hoult
are just
do a lot of the same auditions.
Yeah. But as we know from this podcast, the Mockingjay movies are a complete disaster.
Yeah.
So
he's gone before those. Right?
Oh, does he die in Catching Fire?
He dies at some point.
Because I think he dies, or his friend, the old woman dies.
She definitely
in Catching Fire, and then I think in Mockingjay he dies, part 1.
Yeah, whatever.
So
I never have to watch them again. So
I know. I hope they don't make the new book that's coming out.
Kids don't. We'll censor that from our children. I'm just kidding. That's terrible.
They can watch it in another room.
Yep.
by themselves. So okay. We have all this. Should we just get to? So let's go to the mermaid hole.
Yeah, there's a lot of dead mermaid carcasses, and they string her up. They are trying to get her to cry. They kill the Christians.
Makes no sense to me.
Meanwhile, while this is happening, they force Jack to go find Ponce de Leon's boat to get the chalices. That's the one. That's the kind of funny scene because he needs to like jump off a cliff.
Yeah,
but he's afraid to do it, and Penelope wants to do it for her dad. And they throw the voodoo doll off the cliff because Jack asked if it'll hurt him if he jumps. So they throw the voodoo doll, and I think it's funny that Jack's screaming as his voodoo doll is.
Yeah, no, that is a good. That's funny.
And then so then he goes,
and it's just a very clear scream, just a ah. There's no shaking in his voice.
Yeah, very funny. So while that's happening, he's finding the chalices, and when he gets to Ponce de Leon's boat, Barbossa's there.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of shows up out of nowhere. I just don't even understand why he's in the movie and what he's trying to do. Meanwhile, the Spanish Armada is also on their tail or ahead of them. Oy vey, why?
Well, here's the thing. We find out that I think on the Black Pearl, but maybe it was what's his name's boat, Blackbeard. He strung up Barbossa by his leg. Mm-hmm. And then Barbossa would rather lose his leg than be taken by Blackbeard. So he cuts off his own leg.
Oh, was that the story?
Yes, and that's why he has the peg leg the whole movie. And so the whole movie he's trying to get revenge on him.
Yes, that's his ulterior motive.
But I don't know. It just doesn't. It's not.
You didn't have to join the Royal Navy to do that. You're pirate. I mean, couldn't you just rile up some angry guys and go after them in another boat?
It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and, I don't like it. And I almost...
And also... no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just was going to say, I just wish that they would have gotten rid of the British stuff, the Royal Navy, London, get rid of all of it and let the Spanish have a shot at having a story, because you get rid of them and you don't even bat an eye, because they make that little of an impact on the story. But for some reason, you felt the need to include them, which makes sense because they were the Spanish were very active, pirateering and all of the high seas during this time period. Get rid of the British stuff. You got 3 movies to do that.
Yeah.
And now it's the Spanish Armada. That's what I think should have happened.
Yeah, it's wild. It's weird because I want so much more out of this movie, but there's too much at the same. It's simultaneously like way too much, and not nearly enough.
Yeah.
So there's all this business that whatever, and there's a lot of that stuff that I always push against in my own brain because I want to believe in movies.
Yeah.
But you have this mermaid. She's tied up. He unties her, the missionary. She swims out to the open sea from that hole. So why were the mermaids letting other mermaids get dragged there and killed?
I think they're already dead when they get there.
But, no, they're tying them up so they can get tears.
I don't think that many people are coming to the Fountain of Youth.
Well, that's another thing I'm confused about, because it was a graveyard of mermaids.
Yeah.
And they said that's how they get tears from them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's unexplainable.
But you have, like she just swims away. It's not just a hole. It's like it goes out to the ocean.
Yeah.
So why are the mermaids not just doing...
Does she make Missionary Boy a mermaid?
I would hope so.
She says, I can save you if you ask. I think that's what she did.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't she just drag him to the bottom and that's it?
Maybe she kills him like they said that they do.
Well, and she also gets legs at one point.
They don't explain it. So when a mermaid is out of water, she can walk.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
As far as I know, you got to take her voice in order for her to use her legs.
Yeah, and that's when she starts talking, is when she gets legs. So it makes no sense.
But fortunately, Rob Marshall will be able to explore it in his live-action adaptation of Little Mermaid coming next year or the year after.
They gave it to him?
Yeah, he's got it.
I mean, he's done mermaids before, so...
He did them poorly once. He can do them poorly again.
Who's Ariel?
It is this person that I don't think I know. Seems like an exciting cast choice to me, though. The Little Mermaid. Oh, you are going to be...
Just show me a picture.
First of all, Flounder is...
Oh, I did look this up recently, but tell me again.
Flounder is played by your boy, Jacob Tremblay.
Yes.
Melissa McCarthy is Ursula.
Yes.
That's good casting.
Yes.
Javier, because she'll be funny.
She'll be funny.
She'll be so, like,
she's got a good voice,
crazy.
too.
Yeah. Javier Bardem is King Triton.
Yeah.
And then...
Who plays...
Aquafina is Scuttle.
Yes.
Ariel is Halle Bailey.
Oh, that's right.
It's this person.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen her in anything, but she looks cool.
Do you think that her parents made her name sound like Halle Berry? Or that's her stage name?
As Halle Lynn Bailey, she's an actress known for the last... Yeah, I don't know. Did you say you wanted to know?
There was another person in it, I thought. Maybe it's Aquafina that I was like, cool.
Yeah. Aquafina's in everything now.
Love it.
So let's get to the Fountain of Youth.
Okay.
Now here's something. They get to this fountain and they're like, Jack, you've been here before. I don't get why anyone would think that Jack had been there. Whatever.
Why do people keep trusting him?
Yeah. And he has the 2 chalices. Now, this is the most convoluted thing. Granted, the series is convoluted. That's part of the fun of it, but it's not fun convoluted. This isn't
Indiana Jones solving puzzles fun.
Well, that's what I kept thinking of, because this is literally The Last Crusade. Remember in that sequence, he has riddles and he's trying to figure out what to do. And you as an audience member, because Steven Spielberg rules so much, are trying to figure it out at the same time as he is. Yes. And every time he figures it out, you're like, oh, that's what you think.
Yep.
And this is like, he's standing there and they're going, where's the Fountain of Youth? And then he just looks at the cup and reads words on them.
Agua de vida.
Nothing that we had a chance to look at beforehand. So we didn't get a I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, it's funny, too, because he clings them together and it does nothing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we're going to kill you. And then he's like, wait. Holds up the cups. And he's like, agua de vida.
And then
water shows up in the ceiling and they enter it through the ceiling, through the water. Now they're at the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah. And just to say, we've had a scene where in this very series where a boat was underwater and flipped upside down, and on a cinematography visual level, it looked really cool.
It looked unbelievable.
And this is like he just pops up out of the water.
Yeah.
Not much visual style.
Not even wet. So now we're at the Fountain of Youth. I do think this set is pretty interesting. I think the actual fountain design is pretty interesting, that it's just more like a drip or like a thin stream of water and not bubbling a ton of water that's filling up the whole place. Everyone follows him after, but then at some point, so they follow after, and then the Royal Navy shows up with Barbossa, and then the Spanish Armada shows up, and it's just
so
like
all these people solve the riddle, and we're just like, yeah, cool, we're
immediately. They all start fighting. Jack has a funny thing where he's like, why would you all fight for both of these men, Blackbeard and
Barbossa?
Is funny. That doesn't make sense. They all start fighting each other anyway, because that's what you do in a movie is you fight. The missionary is trying to get out, and you see him like walk upstairs, and then he's back with the mermaid. And it's like, that's not how you got here. How do you get out of here? And they don't show anyone else getting out. So, oh my gosh, it's so confusing because it looks like they're just in ruins.
Yeah.
That made me so annoyed.
And the Spanish, I mean, they say, like, we won't drink this like pagan water or something like that.
Yeah, which they never once established that the Spanish want to find the fountain to destroy it. Did they?
No.
Okay.
No, they did establish that they're Catholics earlier in the movie, but I don't know
Who cares?
I don't know how that has to do with the Fountain of Youth. So then they pull down like pillars and break the fountain.
That was just like so. Oh my gosh, that for me. I mean, I checked out a long time ago in this movie, but that for me was like,
what?
This is a piece of garbage. Everything that I'm watching. That was so dumb.
Yeah.
Why did you need the Spanish to do that? You could have just had the Blackbeard part of people storyline, a second storyline, whether it's the Spanish Armada or the Royal Navy. The second story could have done it.
Yeah. So then, Blackbeard is about to die because Barbossa stabs him. With a poison thing that they established in a couple scenes before where he's just gathering toads.
Honestly, I wanted the whole movie to be him capturing frogs.
That'd have been cool. And then Penelope gets cut as well.
Yeah.
And so then...
So they got to make a choice.
Yeah, Johnny Depp
And I will say, they did establish this very clearly. At the Fountain of Youth, you have a chalice and another person has a chalice. You put the teardrop of the mermaid in one of the chalices. And the person who drinks, so both drink, and the person with the mermaid tear gains all of the years of the other person who drank.
Yeah.
That's cool to me.
I like that.
Because there are consequences.
That's a fun twist on the Fountain of Youth as far as I know.
Yeah. From what little I know about the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah. But here's what I don't like about it. So I've always been, and maybe someone will point this out to me, but actually, please don't. I just feel like a Fountain of Youth, okay, if I drink it, it's a rejuvenating elixir that then causes me to de-age. But if I have a mortal wound, I'm still going to die. It doesn't de-age. It doesn't, like, cure you of wounds. What is that?
What if you had cancer?
Well, maybe. I just feel like if you're bleeding out and you're about to die, you have poison running through your veins, I don't see how drinking from the Fountain of Youth is going to help you. You're doomed. That's what I think.
Maybe it gets rid of immediate illnesses. But
clearly that's what they're saying. I've just never thought that about the Fountain of Youth, and I think it's dumb.
What did you think of the Fountain of Youth?
No, I thought you just drank it and it shaved off 20 years.
Shaved off or added on?
Like brought you down,
Oh.
So say you're 20.
But you don't live longer? Oh, I guess in theory you would live longer.
Yeah, like you're 60, you take a swig of water, now you're 40.
Really gotta watch The Fountain. I don't remember how they do it.
It's always tough for me to turn on a movie that has 3 different stories that are supposed to either connect or throughout time.
I'm sorry, so you don't like Pulp Fiction?
I said it's hard for me to turn on one of those movies. Okay. And I will say, like I was saying, that they're like in different time periods, and they're
Yeah.
like Pulp Fiction is one big story,
No,
which is
no,
cool.
I know. That was a joke anyway.
It's just always hard for me to turn them on.
Yeah.
So you'll probably have to force me to watch
I guarantee
that movie.
you I will forget that movie exists by the time we're done recording this podcast. Therefore, you don't have to watch it.
Right before we press end record, I'm going to say, remember the fountain? And that'll be my sign off for this episode.
Okay. So
the movie broke us.
The water encases Blackbeard in a tornado of water, a hurricane of water, and it rips the skin, the muscle, all of the flesh off of him, and he's nothing but bones. And I thought this part was actually really dang cool. Like the effects team were only allowed enough time to really make this one part of the movie cool.
Yeah, I guess.
And he dies.
And then everything's fine or whatever. Jack Sparrow.
There's a lot of this is the end of the story now. Here's our last sentences that are really going to make you think.
Yeah.
Or make you be like, I liked that movie.
Right.
Very cheesy.
And he like maroons Penelope in what's supposed to be a cute scene. And then he hooks up with Gibbs again, and Gibbs has the boat.
And they're walking off into the sunset.
Yeah, and I will give them credit for this.
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow says something that's kind of a commentary on the craziness of the sequel, of the movie itself, because he says something to the effect of, now what crazy thing are we going to have to do to get this boat out of the bottle? And I felt like that was a little nod to like, these movies are crazy. And I always kind of like a little wink wink to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie ends. We actually didn't watch the post-credit scene.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, what happened?
I'll pull it up and we'll do it live on air. But yeah, I think it's like an okay movie, but it's a horrible Pirates movie.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because I feel like it had the story level was up there with probably Mortal Engines. Like they were telling the story as competently as Mortal Engines does, although they didn't have a Shrike. But Mortal Engines has a cool cooler visuals and cooler things it's doing. So it makes up for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
End scene. Actually, Mortal Engines is way cooler than this. Never mind.
It really is. I enjoy that way more.
Okay, let's see.
Micah.
What?
I think in the next movie they do some de-aging on Johnny Depp.
Oh no.
Look at this still.
Uh-oh. Shiny boy. Okay, after credits. Here we go. Can you see it? The voodoo doll came back. What? So the payoff was in a post-credit scene. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Didn't like it.
No.
Not a good movie. I'll never watch it again. And
the next one looks real bad.
Well, and then this movie has kind of like everyone thinks it's like okay, you know,
Okay.
generally.
Yeah.
And the next one, people don't like the next movie.
Yeah.
There's just, as far as I can tell, nobody likes the next movie.
Okay.
So it's going to be a
Javier
struggle.
Bardem looks real bad.
He looks bad.
He looks so bad.
But hey, I've heard personally from some of you that you like it when we rant about a movie we don't like. So tune in next week as we talk about Dead Men Tell No Tales. Now, we're going to announce our series. But before we do that, you have got to go to www.patreon.com/MICAHMCCAW and join in on the fun. The patrons, we're getting more and more, and it's getting crazy, and I'm loving it. And we have Gremlins 2, the new batch, ready for you to listen to. There's always exclusive episodes, and there's exclusive music and art and a lot of fun stuff going on over there. Secondly, anything from you?
No.
Oh, I did release a music video, Factory Sealed.
You did?
Yes, I did. And I reworked old cartoons and made a lyric video out of them. It's pretty cool. You just go to my YouTube,
Very, very cool.
Micah, and you can watch it.
Dude knows how to make a music video.
I try. Now, drum roll. Would you like to announce the series?
No, because I don't remember what's next.
You're the one who chose it.
Oh, I do know what it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Hannibal.
We're doing Hannibal. The Hannibal
Which includes
series.
which movies and how many?
This will be a 5-movie series. We are including Michael Mann's Manhunter, which sees Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter. And
Is that an older movie?
it is.
Like 80s?
I think it's 80s. I think it's early
So
80s.
you got Silence of the Lambs, Manhunter.
No, Manhunter, Silence
I'm
of
not
the
going
Lambs.
in order because I don't know what it is.
Oh.
But if you know what it is, go.
Yeah, Manhunter, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal with a crazy guest that's going to be on it. That is unbelievable. That hint worked on the movie. Red Dragon, and then Hannibal Rising.
Okay.
So another
very,
5.
very exciting. If anyone knows me, they know I love it. This isn't true crime, but loves
Like crime.
crime. I love crime.
She loves crime.
And I'm Batman.
So get ready. Get ready. And thank you for listening. We love you all. Make sure and rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends. And we'll see you next week. And don't forget, Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain.